Hello everybody. At this time we are talking about the law of supply. The law of supply, a fundamental concept in microeconomics, asserts that as the price of a good or service rises, suppliers are eager to offer more of it, aiming to increase their profits. Conversely, if prices fall, suppliers typically provide less. This law works alongside the law of demand to shape how resources and prices are determined across market economies. And then, how does the law of supply work? The law of supply applies to services and labor as well as goods. A higher price can increase the supply. For example, employees may be more likely to work overtime if they are paid at a higher hourly rate. Professions that offer relatively high salaries, such as software engineering, may attract more people to educational programs that ultimately increase the supply of qualified job applicants. In practice, prices are often determined by the relationships between supply and demand. A related economic theory, the law of supply and demand, describes how this works. Rising demand for products and services tends to drive up prices. This provides an incentive for providers to increase the supply. However, as the price of those products and services continues to rise, fewer customers will buy them. The law of supply and demand predicts that as a result, free markets move toward an equilibrium where the price and quantity of the supply exactly match customers' demand. And then we move to factors affecting the law of supply. The first factor, cost of production. When there are changes in the cost of raw materials or labor, especially to produce a unit of supply, the volume will change as well, assuming the selling price remains the same. The variable cost affecting profit margins is a big factor in targeting the quantity to produce. And the second, period of uncertainty. In situations of higher business risk, producers may be inclined to reduce supplies so that they can offload older inventory. During war or civil unrest, for example, producers are more than eager to sell, even possibly at a lower price. And then third, technological changes. Advancement in technology can boost the efficiency with which units are produced, lessening the cost of production. This then has a similar effect to that outlined under cost of production. And then fourth, legislation. Certain regulatory laws or quotas may be put in place that limit the quantity of a given product that can be produced. For example, In the energy industry, carbon offsets limit the amount certain companies can supply. And fifth, taxes. The imposition of taxes in the production of goods limits profitability. If a producer is required to remount a portion of sales as tax, then the producers will be less inclined to increase supply. And then we move to types of the law of supply. The first type, market supply. The market supply represents the aggregate quantity of a good or service offered by all producers within a specific market. Second, long-run supply. Long-run supply, also known as long-term supply, extends its considerations beyond the immediate production capacity. Third, joint supply. Joint supply arises when multiple goods are derived from a single source. Fourth, short-run supply. Short-run supply refers to the total quantity of goods and services companies can provide without requiring additional investments in business expansion. And fifth, composite supply. Composite supply is observed when goods are inherently interconnected and are sold as a bundled package. And then we move to importance of the law of supply. The first about understanding market dynamics. The law of supply helps in understanding how market dynamics work, particularly the behavior of producers in response to price changes. It explains why producers are willing to supply more of a good and when its price rises and less when its price falls, offering a foundational explanation for market supply curves and price setting mechanism. And then second, basis for pricing strategies. The law of supply provides a basis for developing pricing strategies. Knowing that an increase in price typically leads to an increase in quantity supplied, firms can use this selection shift to adjust prices. And then we move to the third, foundation for economic models and theories. The law of supply is a fundamental component of many economic models and theories, including supply and demand analysis, equilibrium pricing, and market competition. This law is a basic idea that helps explain more complicated economic theories about how markets work, how resources are used, and how economies grow. Knowing this law is important for everyone learning about economics because it supports many key concepts in the field. And then we move to assumptions of law of supply. The phrase keeping all the factors constant or ceteris paribus is used when describing the law of supply. This expression refers to the presumptions that the law is based on the first, that the price of other commodities is constant. Second, the producer's objectives are constant. Third, the state of technology has not changed. Fourth, the taxation laws remain the same. And fifth, the price of factors of production is constant. I think it is enough. Thanks for watching.